was Rosendahl off this committee for a while?
No.
I thought Corinne was on it, he was on.
Not as long as I've had it.
No, is this, right, just misread something. We have your back. Well, you sit where you want. We have your back. When you're up there, we have your back.
That's nice of you.
But that means they'll throw me into the
Yeah.
questions.
Is Ronnie coming too, or you?
She is. You're all worried up. You are
Is
worried
Brian
up.
coming too?
Brian?
In case the, like.
Did you talk to him today?
Off in just a few moments. We're waiting for our colleague. You can keep talking. We're ready to go. Like Tina Turner, you ever hear that phrase? You know, like Proud Mary, they start off slow and then it gets going. So we'll start. Today is the Trade, Commerce, Tourism Committee special meeting for Wednesday the 14th. Mr. Clerk, what's the first item?
Item number 1, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Ms. Dianna M. Torres to the board of Los Angeles Convention Center for the term ending June 30th, 2016.
Great. And, yes.
I believe Ms. Torres hasn't arrived yet, but Mr. Alfaro is here for item
Good. So
2.
we'll hold Ms. Torres and we'll go to Mr. Alfaro. Thank you.
In this case, this would be communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Mr. Carlos E. Alfaro to the Los Angeles Convention Exhibition Center Authority for the term ending January 16, 2015. And as an added note, reports from the Ethics Commission have been received both for this item and item number 1.
Super. Mr. Alfaro. Thank you for your service to the city of Los Angeles. We're just starting our meeting now. Arriving is Mr. Bill Rosendahl. Bill, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
We're just starting this. And I'm joined by Mr. Well, that's that's a good point, Mr. Clerk. We absolutely love Janice Hahn, and if you said that, Mr. Rosendahl, he just prompted me. But I really want to give Janice Hahn credit as initiating, pushing, kickstarting the West development of the Tom Bradley wing with the great advice of the great councilman of the 11th District, Mr. Rosendahl. But Ms. Hahn, and I thank you, Bill, for coming in because that just gave me a flash to talk about Janice. She is the one who has got that project going and it's moving forward. Let's give Congresswoman Janice Hahn a hand right there. So we're going to take item number 2 as we get back to item number 1, but we're going with item number 2 first. So, Mr. Clerk, read it in appropriately. Very nice.
Communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Mr.
Yeah.
Carlos E. Alfaro to the Los Angeles Convention Exhibition Center Authority for the term ending January 16, 2015.
So, Carlos, you're right in the middle of it. You're protecting the city's interests. You know there's a lot going down in and around there. You're inspired by the mayor's appointment, and you'll continue to be inspired.
Absolutely.
Give us a little brief report on you and how you, as a commissioner, feel we could move forward.
Great. Well, the main conversation now is over the stadium that is being built. The main focus is on whether or not, all the feasibility studies, the funding, and everything comes to play. Our role in terms of the commission is just making sure that the city's interests, that the county's interests are well taken care of, and that the convention centers continues to thrive and move forward as those steps are implemented.
Great. Mr. Garcetti, any questions?
No, just in terms of the convention center, folks, what sort of issues are you looking at in terms of the design? I know there's a committee that's set up and all that, but certainly is a concern, I think, for a lot of folks that are looking at. Well, but I want to ask the Commission. I know you can ask, and you've answered before, but what ideas do you have in terms of community input and what your thoughts are right now about the neighborhood around the convention center and a sense of kind of place there?
Well, part is the kind of opportunities it's going to create in terms of job creation, in terms of bringing the convention center to state-of-the-art, making it attractive in terms of for future exhibitors, future trade and conventions. And one of the things that is being looked at in the conversation that's been at the committee is where the convention is with regards to its green initiative. And that's something that the West Hall, the older part of the convention center, has had a challenge bringing and getting compliant in that area. So having a whole new facility in terms of square footage is something that's attractive, and it's something that, at least from our view, my view on the commission, is something that would add to the city.
And my only, for both of you actually, would be, I think Councilman Rosendahl at the airport has done a great job in terms of giving an increased sense of place that you're in LA. Right now you land in an airport, you don't necessarily know you're in LA. Same thing with the convention center. It's it's run by extraordinarily good people. This is also kind of the description, I would say, of the LA Live there's not necessarily a sense you're in Los Angeles. And so as we look at this, I think a good role that the Convention Center Authority can play is really in the design and on that thing of giving a sense of place. When you're at El Pueblo, you know Pueblo. When you're in Chinatown, you know you're in Chinatown. When you're in Hollywood, you have a sense of that. But you could be in any city if you didn't know you were in Los Angeles and look around maybe at the buildings. And I think we have a real opportunity to do that and to really say who we are. So look forward to working on that with you.
Great. Mr. Rosendahl?
Mr. Chair, are we doing the two together because they're both?
Well, no, we only because we started with two, because we held yours, we were just on two now, but we'll go to one momentarily.
Because I'm asking the same question.
Well, then we're gonna ask it, that we're gonna do two, I didn't combine them yet, but just stay with two and we'll go back to one.
Okay, same question I'll ask you. She and I were coming up the elevator, which was our way of reconnecting again, though I had the pleasure of your colleague 4 years ago when she came before it. When you look at the convention center and you look at the event center, and you look at the potential opportunities, the big concerns I have: first, we're paying $47 million a year on interest alone on an existing loan from the existing situation that was created way before anybody's time here, which goes right against the general treasury. And so one of my biggest concerns as we were going through this process: will the city taxpayers be left holding the bag? That was my biggest concern, and we kept playing this out through a process where we now have an MOU. What role do you see yourself in dealing with the issue of traffic mitigation in the EIR? Let's say we know it's difficult to get downtown and get out of downtown. We also know we're going to have a lot of mass transit projects that will eventually, over time, create an interconnected public transportation system so you don't have to get in your car all the time. But it is something that we're challenged with going forward. How do you view that, and what role do you see yourself in dealing with that when that EIR comes out?
Well, part of it is getting familiar and understanding the research, the studies that's being done, that's coming out. From my end, and our role, as I understand our role in terms of the commission, is ensuring that as these steps are taken forward, the convention center continues to be viable to be able to make payments on those on its rent and its obligations. I don't have an expertise in environmental studies or traffic, so I would be for my part, is looking at to what the experts are saying with regards to that. I live in LA. I love downtown LA. I love being able to travel and come through in the metro or drive into it. So one of the concerns would be, what would be the impact of it in terms of traffic, in terms of environmental challenges to it. But I'm not an expert in the field, and I would, look to what the experts are saying in terms of that, and keeping that what you mentioned in terms of that consideration, that it benefits the city, is not a detriment to the city.
I love that. For the record, for the microphone, and for the public and the press, tell us a little bit about your background and
Sure.
why you want to do this.
Sure. I immigrated to this country back in 1982. I've grown up in
From where?
From El Salvador.
Oh, great.
From El Salvador. Went to school here in the LAU USD district. I have a business that I started with my brother.
Ask you what high school, so you might as well say.
Okay. Grand High School out in Van Nuys.
See, Tom's nodding.
A Lancer.
An answer, yes. And my brother and I started an insurance brokerage risk management firm 14 years ago in the city of Van Nuys. We operate there, we live there, and my area of expertise is working with business owners and protecting their assets. Is looking at, from a risk management, from an insurance planning, how do they transfer risks onto an insurance company or establish steps to be able to reduce their liabilities and protect the financial future of their companies.
That's beautiful. And you can use that same sharp mind and pencil thinking about the city as the group that you want to make sure doesn't get hit in any way. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? Ask for a motion. Move approval, seconded by Mr. Rosendahl. Congratulations. We'll forward it on to council. When is it scheduled in council, Mr. Clerk?
It would be Friday, September 16th.
Very good. Thank you so much. We call item number 1, please.
Great. Nice meeting.
Item number 1, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Ms. Dianna M. Torres to the Board of Los Angeles Convention Center for the term ending June 30th, 2016.
Hey, Diana, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Okay, good. Tell us a little about what's been happening at the convention center, and what are your passion as you move forward in this time of great change?
Well, it has been a time of great change, and this is my second term, and I'm honored to be considered for the position. When I started on the commission, I do not believe that the convention center was in the black. It was, I'm fairly certain it was in the red. It has been in the black, for the last, I believe, 4 years. And it is, I believe, now starting to contribute to the city's general fund. It doesn't address Mr. Rosenthal's concern about the taxpayers paying the bonds. You're right, that was a long time ago before anybody here was involved. But I think it's very important to the city that we have a convention center that is a hallmark for the city, because hundreds of thousands, and perhaps Mr. Hill will correct me and say millions, of people come through this city for the first time because their company or their industry association decided to have a convention downtown Los Angeles for whatever reason. And that is, every person that comes for the first time for a business reason like that is a potential tourist, and is a tourist, and hopefully will come back, and hopefully spends a lot of money and has a greater appreciation for the city and spreads the word. I emigrated to Los Angeles as well, but from New York.
Would you go to PS 25?
I did not. I went to Our Lady of Mercy Academy in South.
God bless the nuns. God bless the nuns. Very good. All right, good.
I've seen changes to, I've worked downtown for the past 19 years, frighteningly enough, and I have seen so many changes to downtown. It's incredible. But I think it's very, very important that the changes continue in a positive way.
Well, thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Rosenthal for any comments or questions as you just asked.
Well, we had a wonderful renewal of our meeting just a little bit ago. When you look at your 4 years there, what do you feel was the best and proudest moment for you? And when you look at the future, what do you see as the biggest challenge?
I think the proudest moment may have been at our last meeting when we saw the financial results and saw that the convention center was giving back to the city and was contributing financially in a way that it hasn't, I don't think ever, but certainly not in recent memory for, of anyone I know. I think that was probably the proudest moment when you think about the other accomplishments. The LEED certification.
Yes.
Was it 80%? It was some very high percentage of occupancy this past year. A number of things had to be moved around in order to make that happen, and the staff was able to do it. I think that was probably my proudest moment on the Convention Center Commission. I think the challenges are, we've been blessed with tremendous growth downtown, and we have a lot of opportunities, but making sure they are the right opportunities and making sure that there is a balance that, a balance that is met and kept without going too far, without ruining what we have and the trajectory that we're on.
Bless you for that. I think that's fantastic. Just a line or two about your background for the record.
Sure. I am originally from New York. I moved here in 1992. I am a lawyer at Kirkland & Ellis downtown. I've worked downtown for the past 19 years. I went to Yale Law School and Princeton undergrad. So my emigration to the West Coast was a complete one. I had never lived here before, but I love Los Angeles.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Garcetti.
stepping up again.
Thank you.
Just briefly, on transportation in the convention center, what ideas as we're looking at some of those issues and in the environmental impact report will, on the proposed stadium and convention center, will obviously focus a lot on that. What sort of ideas and areas should we be focusing to make it a better transit hub?
I think we have made a good start on the public transportation and the ability to get around downtown, but I think we have a long way to go. The dash system is great, but big surface level parking lots I don't think are the right answer. To get downtown, to get to the Staples Center area right now, I think is very, very difficult, and we need a better system. We need more shuttle vans. We need more off-site parking. We need a better system overall that is not quite as piecemeal as I think it may be. We started at disadvantage because we didn't have an underground public transportation system like New York or San Francisco, or an above-ground one like Chicago. But we've made great steps in the times that I've been here. But I think that is what concerns me the most. I live in the Venice area. Councilman, I don't know if you knew that, but I live in your district. And getting downtown now is challenging.
Yep.
I am concerned about the parking. We talk about that at every meeting. I think we have a great resource. I think there are very good plans in place, but we need to make sure that they fit with everything else that's being done. The one thing we can't have is a big convention that draws lots of people from all over the area and from outside of the state as well, and have no place to park, or not, take a half an hour to get someplace that should have taken 5 minutes, because that will not leave a good taste in anybody's mouth.
Thank you very much. I believe that if the stadium is built, it's going to force people to use transit in a giant way. It is a part of the regional connector there, right at the 7th and Figueroa, Metrolink into Union Station, transfer to the Red Line, possibly the Expo line, then to Pico Street Station, which if you could look at that, and I see Mr. Hills here, expanding that distance and just see how much power the MTA could pull on trains, because I truly believe people will have to be forced to take transit. They're not going to drive, because it's a downtown stadium. It's not like at Exposition Park or in Brookside Park at Pasadena with the Rose Bowl, or Anaheim Stadium, which has all this space around it. So that's something to look at and make sure they have enough power. I know the San Diego Chargers, up to 30,000 people will take their and I forget the name of the trolley car that runs from downtown San Diego, their name of their car, but 30,000 people will take it to a Charger game and walk off. So we'll see that in the future. Thank you for your service to the city of Los Angeles. Same date, Mr. Clerk?
Yes.
Okay, approved by Mr. Rosendahl, seconded by Mr. Garcetti. So ordered.
Thank you.
Appreciate your service.
You ever been to the top of this building?
I have.
Oh, good, okay. Have you been to the top? Good, okay, good. All right, I want to make sure. All right, next item, please.
Item number 3, Board of Airport Commissioners Report, Resolution 24542, a negative declaration relative to proposed lease number BNA 8597 with Pacific Aviation Development, covering the development of approximately 30.6 acres of aviation land at the Van Nuys Airport in connection with the Van Nuys Propeller Park Development Project.
And I want to hear first from you that the commission supports this
Yes, they've approved.
unanimously?
Pardon me?
Unanimously?
Yes.
And then also the general manager supports this.
Yes.
Carry on with your report.
I'm Steve Martin. I'm Chief Operating Officer of Los Angeles World Airports. The report is that this project is a project that's been long-standing and a long-standing sort of obligation of LAWA to complete, which is the Propeller Park at Van Nuys Airport, which is a 30-acre site as set up in the master plan in 1992 as a set-aside for propeller operations while the remainder of the airport gets redeveloped. Been a couple of attempts at a RFP process to select a developer. The one that we did most recently was completed in 2008. Since that time, the environmental CEQA process has been being done, and we've been negotiating the lease with the proposed developer. We completed those negotiations a couple of months ago, and the Board of Airport Commissioners approved the lease right after that.
And the council of the district's been briefed and supports the action?
Yes.
Good. Mr. Rosendahl.
By the councilman in the district, you're talking about who?
Mr. Cardenas.
Councilman Cardenas, yes.
That's the important question that Mr. Labange asked. Have you been in discussions with him?
I have not. I think our government affairs folks have with his staff.
Okay, because my biggest issue, I haven't looked at what anybody's put here in front of me, is 30 years. Why 30 years? Why give away that much time without updates or 5 years or 10 years or, accountability, this and that, to keep the feet at the fire? Why 30 years?
Well, the biggest issue with this project and a challenge that they have if this lease is approved is getting it financed. It will require the developer to borrow in excess of $20 million in order to develop the site. And the amount of time they need to repay that loan, given the revenue stream, which is not a great revenue stream from propeller operations at Van Nuys Airport, requires that duration of time.
So explain what this 30-year lease gives them, that gives you comfort that 30 works. What if they don't produce what we need in year 6 or 7 or year 10? How does this, I mean, $20 million isn't the beginning of the end of the world, really, in this day and age, in the context of somebody in an airport situation. But if they were compelling enough to tell you 20 million is really putting ourselves out, do we have the safeguards in that 30-year time frame to
I think we do.
be accountable?
Right.
That's
I think that while $20 million isn't a lot of money on the scale.
in that context of
on
30
the-
years, that's all.
Yeah, on the scale of the revenues that would come from T-hangars and other type
Uh-huh.
facilities at the propeller park, it is a pretty outstanding amount of debt to take on for the project. And so it is a pretty big commitment. We're comfortable that the lease gives them the requirements to build the site out very quickly within the first 2 years. And so we'll know very quickly whether they're able to perform. On an ongoing basis, maintaining the site and continuing the operations is probably less of a challenge than borrowing the money, getting the project built, and repaying the obligations of the borrowed money.
Any issues with neighbors, community people?
There were issues when the developer went through the CEQA process about some air quality issues, some noise issues. I think they've all been resolved satisfactorily. There are no outstanding complaints. I think, to give the neighbors credit, I think a lot of the neighbors were part of the master plan process, want this project built, in part because it's a preferable use from their point of view than some other things the airport might do, such as jet operations in the area. It's very close to the Balboa neighborhood district, and I think they view this as a sort of
Buffer.
a buffer. The propeller planes don't fly as much. They certainly don't make as much noise. They're infrequent operators, sometimes just on weekends. They don't operate at nighttime generally. And so I think
Did you
it's
talk
viewed.
to Wayne Williams or any of those directly connected with it?
I've personally been in front of the CAC a number of times and had to explain, quite frankly, in most cases, why we haven't gotten this done yet. So the pressure from the advisory council has been to get this done. So they've had all the briefings. The developer's been out there briefing them, and so I think it's been a long process. I think all the bases have been touched. It is not an easy project to get done. I'll say that much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Garcetti.
Does this developer, have they done similar projects elsewhere?
Yeah, they, the component parts of the developer, who have a series of partners who've come together to do this, have done similar projects at other airports, including ones in California.
Well, can you point to a couple similar types of projects, and is the revenue stream mostly just from enthusiasts who then pay rental fees? And
Yeah, the overwhelming source of revenue is rent from T-hangars. This is not a fixed-based operation with fuel sales and other ancillary sources of revenue. It's simply rental income.
Okay.
And in the environment we're in today and the cost of, owning your own plane, that's the risky part, which is, will people pay the rates that go with new construction? That's the real tough part.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. You all right, Mr. Rosendahl?
Oh, yeah.
All right, moved by Mr. Rosendahl, second by Mr. Garcetti.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Excuse me, Bill Craig to the CAO's office.
Sure.
I'd like to request that a technical correction be made to the CAO
Sure,
report.
sure. Go ahead, Bill.
With respect to recommendation 2, I put in there that the mayor certify the final negative declaration. It should actually be that the mayor recommends the council certify the negative.
Very good. You got that, Mr. Clerk? So ordered.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye now. Okay, it's unanimous on that. Next item.
Item number 4, Board of Airport Commissioners Report and Resolution number 24529, relative to proposed amended and restated terminal facilities lease number LAA-4983, and license agreement with Delta Airlines in Terminal 5 at Los Angeles International Airport.
Mr. Clerk, this is the same airline in these two items?
They are,
4
they're,
and 5, should we take them separately, or could we take them together?
I would defer to the CLA.
Be better to do them separately.
Separately it is. Okay, here we go. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is an amended and restated lease with Delta Airlines. As the document reflects, the original lease with Delta Airlines was a 40-year lease. It has something like 15 years left on it.
Right.
We are restructuring the lease to deal with a number of issues, the most important of which, I think, to us is this lease will cause over $250 million of investment in Terminal 5 to modernize the terminal, which is, as you know, one of the things that's our greatest challenge is to bring terminals sort of up to a modern standard. Even though Terminal 5 is one of our best terminals, it still requires more than $250 million of investment. In doing that, we're restructuring Delta's lease. They have agreed, I think, quite honorably, to a whole new set of rates and charges for the terminal, which basically give LAWA a lot of ability to pass through our costs where the old lease did not do that. And so it's a very favorable deal from us, and it leads to a lot of investment in improving our facilities.
Have you briefed the councilman of the district?
I assume our government affairs people
I
have.
should hope so. I want to hear that regularly. Okay, good. Thank you. This is the commission approved this?
Yes, they have.
Got it. Good. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, I met with the Delta folks, and I'm very excited about this project. Are you going to give them 40 fresh years, or are you going to go from 1985 up?
We are going to give them the same remaining term that they had on the original lease, so it's only from now until 2024, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
We did not give them any extension to their term.
Okay.
We simply restructured the old lease for the same duration as it originally was. So,
Obviously, my questions are, just would you please summarize the completed Terminal 5 improvement projects and the list of future projects provided under the lease?
sure. A lot of the projects, just so you know, projects that the public probably break into two categories. Ones the public won't see but may benefit from, and ones that the public will see. The project and investment they've made already as part of this exercise is to put an inline screening process for bags in that terminal. They're making security checkpoint improvements that are very extensive in terms of having to rebuild parts of the terminal in order to make the line shorter and expand the number of checkpoints. The ticket lobby where the passengers go in will be done, so it'll be changed from the historical way we all checked into airplanes into the more modern way of efficient checking in. And a lot of the things you won't see are infrastructure improvements in the building, behind the wall, sort of bones of the building, things that need to be done, utilities and other things. So, and ultimately at the end, the last phase of it is to improve the hold rooms, which will coincide with when we're doing concession improvements on the concourse.
You mentioned the dollar figure. How much money are we talking about?
It's over $250 million.
And how many jobs do you think we'll get out of this during this process?
Unfortunately, I don't know that answer. I know Roger Johnson has an index of, for every X dollar spent, to produce Y construction.
Is there
jobs.
anybody from Delta here? Could we have a
Yeah,
quick
but-
answer on that, what you think that might mean in terms of jobs? Obviously, in this day and age, this is the biggest issue we all have. Come on up real quick, introduce yourself on the record.
And may I suggest, Mr. Rosendahl, if they feel more comfortable, we got the airports, when we get to council on this, give us a full,
I just
robust.
think it's great. I'm very impressed with them. But for the record here, if you have any sense of that.
David Ham from Delta Airlines in the corporate real estate department. To be honest, we haven't done the math either to come up with the exact number of jobs. I mean, we know there's a significant investment that we've made to date, and there are jobs that'll be, but I don't have a number today.
Okay, we look forward to that before it comes to council, because this will, again, we need positive spirits, and this is a incredibly great project, and I love it, and the jobs are a key part of it. What other airports does Delta serve in the region?
Well, they serve Ontario Airport. And
Yeah.
I believe they serve Burbank Airport.
We do.
I don't think they serve Long Beach. And I know they serve Orange County.
do serve Long Beach.
You do serve Long Beach? Oh, I didn't realize.
Come on now, get it straight now.
And I might say this.
Well, I never use those airports.
In our
so I wouldn't know what they
conversations
would do.
yesterday with your leadership there, we talked about Ontario. We talked about direct nonstop flights. You already have one going there to Atlanta. Am I right on that? A couple of times a day. That's very successful. And I understand that you will look at direct nonstop flights out of Ontario, just as part of your regionalization that we all believe in.
Correct.
Thank you.
National News reported yesterday 3 to 5% of your flights next year will be reduced. They have to look like at the bottom dollar at everything, so we're not always going to get that great transformation, but we want to see regionalism to the best as possible. Mr. Garcetti.
So walk us through the passenger experience renovations a little bit more in detail.
Well, I think right now, the way the terminal has worked historically is the passengers come into the check-in counter, and it hasn't been converted to sort of an automated check-in environment.
You got to take the.
And you have to carry your bag
Right.
to a TSA station that's in the lobby, which is unacceptable both from a customer service point of view and from a security point of view. With the transformation, you'll be able to check in, drop your bag onto a belt where it will be screened behind the wall, and you, the passenger, won't have to wait in line to do two things in the lobby.
With that freed up space, does Delta have plans, I mean, to
Yeah,
kind of
it
change the
allows us to
customer
add additional
experience?
Capacity, so there's more check-in processing for the customers themselves, and so where we used to have queues that literally went out the door,
Yep.
because of the screening devices in the lobby, as we free those up, as Steve mentioned, and put them behind the wall, that provides more capacity in the lobby. When we did this in Atlanta years ago, we actually processed more passengers than we thought we could,
Right.
so it's really helped in the customer service levels.
Yep. And the second part of it, I think that's probably also important that they're undertaking as part of this project is to improve the security checkpoint where you're actually screened.
Yeah.
Where the number of stations is insufficient,
Yeah.
particularly with the new devices that have been put in place. The
How many
full body
stations
scan.
are there, remind me? It's like 3 or something? It's very small.
In Terminal 5, I think there are 8 of them
There are
at the
8?
main checkpoint, and we've put some improvisational ones downstairs.
Okay, maybe this
That may
one, I know,
stay.
yeah.
And if you go on the lower level,
Right,
you only
right,
encounter
yeah.
2 or 3.
Right.
Then the upper level will be expanded
Right.
to, I think, 10 or 11.
Mhm.
But it's congested, it's crowded, and the operational sort of flow with the TSA staff is not very good because they have both the magnetometers and the x-ray machines, as well as now they've added the full body scanner, and you just can't fit all that equipment in the area on that mezzanine level that exists today. So that will be expanded out, and there'll be more devices and more room.
Mhm.
So.
How does this fit into like retail restaurant renovation work? And
Well, one of the things we've tried to work through with Delta is phasing the fact that we've already awarded our contracts for the concessions, and we've got to figure out how to close concessions, continue to service the customers from a mostly food point of view, and work around the renovations that Delta's doing. But I think we're close to having that solved. I wouldn't say that we have that completely orchestrated quite yet, but it's a pretty high priority for us to try to figure out how to speed up the concession delivery, but not close all the concessions at the same time, and that's really the hardest part of executing.
anything else from either of you on on that customer experience inside the terminal once you get through? I mean, are you looking at, I mean, just those basics of what we've seen, you know?
You can talk about what your hold room operation is going to look like versus what it's historically looked like, because I think that's one of the things that will make it feel as nice as Atlanta does when you use Atlanta.
All right, so we're going to do, there's cosmetic improvements in some ways, and so really just so the look and feel and the comfort and the seating will be replaced, carpet will be replaced, walls will be painted. It's cosmetic in some ways, but those improvements will go a long way to refresh the facility and, make it lighter, brighter, a better customer service experience. To Steve's point, the security checkpoint will have additional capacity, so additional capacity through the ticketing lobby, additional capacity through the checkpoint. The hold room furniture and the hold rooms themselves will be much improved. As you arrive in LA, if you've arrived internationally, we've expanded the FIS facility to add additional capacity, both for processing the passengers and also, again, improvements to really upgrade that facility from what it's been traditionally and make just more space available through the process. And then the bag claim area also will get refreshes as we go through this with new devices and again, to brighten and lighten and better, really just totally refresh the customer service experience for people coming through the facility.
I think one thing I'd add, which I think Councilman Rosendahl has brought up before, is that, 4 years ago, Delta was underutilizing this facility, which made it a very easy facility to operate.
Right.
And we've put a lot of pressure on them to utilize the existing facilities more intensively. When they acquired Northwest Airlines, it almost went from too little to too much. And a lot of these improvements in terms of customer service are now fixing the fact that we've asked them to use the facilities more intensively, but we didn't make the improvements at the time they actually moved the airlines in. So it's sort of a little bit of an iterative process where we asked them to use the facilities better. They did that, but now we need to improve the facilities to make it an acceptable experience.
One last question, Mr. Chair. In terms of resource reduction, is that a part of what the renovations are trying to do in terms of your energy and costs and resource usage? Is there anything that's part of that?
There are improvements to the utilities, as Steve mentioned earlier, to provide additional infrastructure. Some of that will be additional capacity to support some of the things like the concession programs that will actually have a little higher draw. But yeah, there will be some improvements in the building itself to better insulate. Some of the windows are getting resealed. It's an old facility that looks great, but actually needs a lot of infrastructure work to it.
But you're not looking at LEED certification levels or anything like that?
I think we're going towards where we've been using the California Green Standard, and I think that's the thing we're expecting to get out of this. But we're not really going for certification on a renovation.
Hey, the convention center did it.
Yeah, well, we're not. One of the things that's really hard to do in this is to keep the building operating while we're doing it, and we're finding that to be the biggest challenge of taking things apart and putting them back together.
You sparked a question, Mr. Garcetti, just what I asked. and Mr. Rosendahl. The Port of Los Angeles, and again, we're talking about Janice Hahn, they came up with this program where they electrify the ships when they idle in the port. You idle a lot when you're at the gate. Is there any possibility of that in technology? I don't know.
Yeah, the
Oh,
way
good.
airplanes that are at the gate today have a choice of doing one of two things. They have a turbine in the airplane called an auxiliary power unit that
Right.
will run the airplane, or you can plug the plane into the building.
Got it.
If we provide the power to the plane.
And now you're going to be able to provide the power.
Correct. This
Now,
project
does
that-
Delta get the bill from Water and Power, or do you get the bill and then charge Delta?
Delta gets the bill.
Delta, they're separate meters all the way around. Mr. Rosendahl,
Oh, no, I'm excited.
robust
Look forward to-
move this motion, seconded by Mr. Garcetti. Go forth, Delta.
Thank you.
Fly safe. Next item.
Item number 5, Board of Airport Commissioners Report and Resolution 24534 relative to proposed First Amendment to Terminal Facilities Lease, number LAA-8561 with Delta Airlines to extend the lease term and adjust the base rent in Terminal 6 at LAX.
Delta has 3 gates in Terminal 6 as well as the ones we talked about in Terminal 5. They originally acquired those from a sublease from Continental Airlines. As part of trying to do a renovation in Terminal 5 with Alaska Airlines for $250 million, Delta was in the way, and we asked them to move out of the way, and we gave them a replacement 5-year lease, but never made them whole on the 7-year sublease they had from Continental. So this is simply restoring what they originally had before they agreed to sort of get out of the way so that we could do the renovation of Terminal 6.
Simple. Good. Mr. Rosendahl.
So moved.
So
I'd like us to
move.
forward with it.
Second it. Let's go for. When's it supposed to be in council?
This would be Friday the 16th.
That's 2 days. Good. Could you stick around, or you got to go back to Atlanta?
I'm going to be going
Okay.
back to Atlanta.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Any other items?
That is it.
I want to thank Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Garcetti, and all the attendants. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Tommy. Great meeting. Good to see you.
We got it done.